What's up, everybody? Big Herc 916, and tune in another edition of Fresh Out. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that share button. Man, whew, we got fire. I got my man here, Justin. The game is dirty. The ticket clothing brand, and dude, we kicking some real game, man. This dude, world of knowledge, entrepreneur, been in law enforcement, man, and dude, blowing my mind some of the conversations we're having. Justin, man, you got the clothing line, the game is dirty, and we talk about just life in general, man. How'd you come up with that concept and visualize your brand, man? Because it's like it covers so many facets of life when you think of the game is dirty. And myself, when I look at like this life and the gray area they don't tell nobody about. Oh, yeah. This guy, Cecil Rhodes Scholar, but this guy was an opium dealer. And they talk about, President Kennedy and the Kennedy family, and he was a bootlegger. And this guy, over here, and, he was the one that, he runs so-and-so, produce, but he was one of the biggest cocaine traffickers. All these people, but you don't hear all this. And so the game is so dirty, but we're taught that if you work hard, you do your best, you go to college, you'll be American dream, buy your house, and you've got the American dream, and it's all shit.
It's all, yeah. Sure, I don't know, that's a good one. Well, they make movies to wake you up. That's what Matrix is about. You're just born into a prison that you can't feel, see, or taste. Like certain things are set up that we were just taught into as a child that our parents were lied to. So you just fall into that. Because that is what's the American dream? 4-bedroom house, 2-car garage, and a Mercedes. Yeah. By the time you finish that, man, you done went through 2 wives, one of your kids and turned out gay. and then in college, you still ain't paid off. And then the child didn't finish. You know that, right? Yeah. And then by the time you finish their paying off their 18-year debt, it's time for the second one. The college debt never gets paid. That's just the hustle, man. But people believe that. And they spend all their life chasing that, and they wear themselves out. That's the average person. That's just falling for the okay. See, I never failed for none of that. Because if they just teach you money in the language of English, that's what they don't teach you money in school. They just teach you, train you enough to hold down a FedEx job. Or train you enough, and a few that have a little more skills than that, they send them on. But the thing, that's all that training, that's that Monday through Friday about. School, get you ready for a job. 5 days a week, clock out. 5 days a week, that's all that is. And they just push you through.
You don't have school,
like herds of people. And then a few, 1% is what they use who really, but besides that, they're not teaching that. You can take any kind of job, work that job for 12, 13 years, money, do your money right, you can retire at 30, 34. They don't teach that. They just teach you, and then the people, then especially the degree. I'm not saying nothing's wrong with getting a degree. There's nothing wrong with that. But, you got to get the right ones, too, because I know so many people with degrees, and none of them are doing. Even with my department, where I work at, everybody they almost got degrees. That's what they're supposed to do. Some not even cut out for it. But they all got degrees. Now they're getting a decent check, but they got to spend the next 21 years paying off their student loans. And I'm like, how do you know? And so it's like they just people have to take the time. God issued common sense at birth, I'm assuming, because it seemed like common sense went away somewhere in the 70s or late. I don't know. But you have to evaluate life and be like, look, what did you see people doing? I see people working, just getting tired and fading out and going, this is not working. And you got to start even thinking outside of that to even think you're going to break out of it. I don't think I just want to work and then retire. I mean, if it happens that way, but that's what they're selling us. And people need to wake up out of that. And that's what I'm trying to get people to do is like, just wake up and know that life is short. You got to make good decisions. And if you're going to have some kids, you got to instill something in them. And you got that loan to do it. And you don't have time to sit up here and spend all your time worrying about this team and this award show and this new shoe came out. That's that's our value that they pushing to us, and people they value in the wrong things.
Do you think a lot of that has to do with exposure though? Because I know for myself, I always felt like I didn't fit in, and I almost thought at one point that, man, maybe I'm adopted, but I can't be adopted because my mom was young. So she had me, but I don't think like everybody else in my house thinks. As far as like, I was always trying to figure out like how to start my own business, or I used to see, people playing golf on TV. I'm like, dude, how do they do that all day and not have to work? That's amazed me. And then I asked, I asked like, I started investigating like, damn, a country club is $200,000 and you got $1,000 a month fee. Then you got to have a drink minimum and food. I'm like, dude, how do they do that all day? They don't have to work. What are they doing? So what are they doing that we don't know? You know, and so I started trying to go down that rabbit hole and seeing different communities and different people as I got older. And, you know, you go over here and these people are hanging out, you know, at the Bay Club, and they got, you know, they got prop boats, and I'm like, dude, what do they do? Because I don't never see nobody working.
Right.
You know,
and
so
he's like, what is that?
It's like, what's the secret there? But, you know, when you look at the public school system and how it's put on a schedule, almost like how they do movements in prison. Okay, get up, child line. Oh, child line. Okay, go back. Work call. Yeah, work call. Everybody running around. Okay, everybody go. It's class time. Then recess. Go lunch, hang out, talk. Back to school. You know, go back to class again. It's like the same thing in moving prison. So in prison, you already trained because you went to school and doing that same shit.
Right.
And then, like you said, you go through. Then maybe you'll do it again in college. But it's like, man, that's not people who live. And then you go to private school. You know, you might have a kid 12 years old and he's studying with kids that are 17, 18. So it's not, there's no limits. There's no, you got to wait to this to get to this. It's just whatever your mind can take you, you can go. So right. your creativity is different. Your exposure is different. You know, your whole everything as far as what you're around, and then what you experience. Like, you know, oh, we're gonna go to my family's vacation home for, you know, Christmas vacation, blah, blah, blah. You're like, damn, what is that like?
What does it look like?
You know what I mean? Damn, oh, we're at Aspen or upstate New York, you know, blah, blah, blah. And
wine cellars.
yeah, you know, and it's like, once you see that, you're like, damn, okay. It ain't like they're smarter than you, it's just exposure. Access.
Right.
And I remember watching something and the dude said, you know, they were having this function, but it was priced at, I forgot, some crazy amount, like 50,000, but he's like, you know, what do they learn? What are they talking about in there? He said, wouldn't you like to know?
Woo.
He said,
wouldn't you like to know?
But you're priced out.
But
if you're in there,
that's on purpose, though.
It's on purpose.
That's on purpose. Yeah.
I mean, so it sounds like you've been exposed to quite a bit. What really opened your eyes to the game, man?
You know, y'all didn't really answer the question when you first asked me. This is exposed to the game. When I graduated high, because I grew up in Carson, went to Carson High School, went to Banning for a little while, and I went straight into the Air Force when I got out of school. Met some good people, you know what I'm saying, had a good time, but you know, I knew I wasn't gonna stay there forever. That's not my thing. But when I was there, it was I think it was Sergeant Placencia. He was a Hispanic dude from Brooklyn, real clean. Uniform fit him like skin, just real immaculate. And I got into a fight with some dude on the bus. You know, we had it because we started chunking them, right? And they took our guns, you know, because nobody. And you know, I put hands on him, whatever, and then he said, you know what? He says, if you would have beat up, because there were two brothers, there was two of them. He said, you know, if you with anybody else on this thing, your ass would be out. He don't want to kind of, I kind of seen things, but he don't want to tell him about the game was dirty. He said, well, he said, do you see what just happened here? He said, if you would have fought little Scotty, he was a white guy, and then this other guy, I don't know what he was. He wasn't black or Hispanic, but he said, if you would have had a fight with Ian there right now, no matter what, he said, you would probably be, you know, getting kicked out, this and that. And then he said, do you notice where you assigned that to, the assignments that we're gonna? He said, well, you think that's coincidence? So he the one that kind of like sparked that, you know, like, oh man. So I started noticing that. And then when I left there, I went and then started working at St. Francis Hospital in Linwood. And once I took that lesson from there, I started knowing how the structure of all these jobs, like who they promote and who works here, who gets the days off, who always have to beg for a day off, who's always being micromanaged. And that's when I started learning, man, this is what it's like. And if you go to the hospital, somebody else will go, they'll get a whole nother treatment or told stuff I don't even told about. The basis, no matter what I go for, like a great white shark that bit my arm off, he'll give me an Advil. So I'm like, come on, man. So that's when I started formulating the game. You know, of course, everybody's heard the term the game is dirty, but do they really listen to it? You know, and it crosses all aspects. And that's where I started coming up with the brand. And then I said, well, I need a logo, so I put TGID. That's what this basically is. It's the letters TGID fused together. And Tigit sounds softer. That's really, I wanted to be the brand called Tigit, but no one, they're like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
It stands for the game is dirty, but I'd rather people call it Tigit, but they never, as soon as I call them Tigit, they don't listen to that. They go straight to the game is dirty. Mm-hmm. So, but if you don't mind, I can read it to you what it means verbatim. Do I need glass for this? Okay, it says TGID. What is it? It's our acronym for the game is dirty. Pronounced as a word, it's Tigit. What is the game? It's life. The game of life can be dirty. Tigit Apparel brings serious and not so serious issues to the forefront in a comical and sometimes serious way. Whatever life brings against you, you must win. relationship, sports, financial, health, discrimination. You must stand against it. Losing is not an option. If you're not afraid of the truth and able to think for yourself, then it's apparel for you. Ticket clothing line, be bold, wear your thoughts. That's basically what it is. So it crosses every part of life. It ain't just, it's like any part of life is not necessarily fair, but you got to push through it. And that's all I'm trying to tell people. Wake up, fight stuff, don't give up. The game is dirty, but you got to keep pressing on. That's all what I'm telling you. And I'm just let people know that what they put in front of you is not really what you necessarily dealing with. Everything seems like a curveball, and you got to take the time to read through that stuff. If you don't, you're gonna be prey out here.
You know, when I'm listening to you say that, and I'm thinking about like just exposure in the different places I've lived at, and you know, I didn't really grasp what you're saying until I got locked up for this bank robbery, and then I started flashing back to like my high school in Sacramento, my high school in Huntington Beach, and then thinking about like just opportunities and what people are doing with themselves. And I remember like, you know, in Sacramento, everybody's, you know, do the robbing drug dealers, do their gangster time. I mean, I'm selling drugs, doing all kind of crazy stuff. And then I remember in Huntington Beach, I remember some of the kids are already managing their family restaurants, or they're doing businesses. I remember one kid pulled up to school in a Porsche 911 convertible and dropped off his own strawberries. He had a strawberry,
Wow.
his strawberry business, and then like he gave the whole faculty strawberries. And, you know, he come to school when he wanted to come to school. He was balling. Right. He already had, you know, strawberry fields in high school. And I think about, damn. And I just started putting everything together, flash into one, flash into the other, and I just think about exposure, man. And I didn't have enough exposure initially on that other side, on that Orange County side, but I had more exposure over here, so that pulled me in more. And then when I got to the pen, I started having conversations with people, and I started thinking about the things I'd done. And I think about some of the things some of these other guys who actually grew up, you know, in Southern California. It's like, dude, you know, you never been to the beach? Oh man, I don't go out there, man. I'm putting no sand on my toes, nigga. I ain't walking around barefooted, nigga. I'm like, damn, you never walked in the sand? No, nigga, that's some gay shit.
I used to do
walk
that.
around some gay sand.
I did. I was joking. I'm not gonna lie. I used to say the same thing.
Dude, like I've been out, you know, the dudes would trip out like, you know, it's like, oh, Big Herc, you know, you ever hooked up with a Mexican girl? I'm like, yeah, you know, you ever skate? You know, I used to skateboard. Hey, that's some weird skateboard. You said, yeah, I was in all that stuff. So I was always kind of different. So I knew, like, damn, what am I doing? I was like not really maximizing my full potential, but I didn't even realize it. So, you know, I kind of like putting it all in perspective. The game is dirty, and just life in general, and access and being, you know, around certain things and what you are conditioned to think is soft or corny or, oh, that's weak, that's some square shit. And that's, you know, these are terms that they use, especially really in the black community, to keep you from really out the way. Not to go here. Yeah. Don't go over there, man. They don't like you over there. You know what I mean? Don't go over there. And I go places all the time, and I tell people, I challenge my comfortability, because I go to places and I like people, and they're like, damn, they get uncomfortable. What is he doing here? That big Negro right there. And I'm like, I get to have a conversation, and I know they like, you know, what did you say you did? I didn't tell you what I did. I'm just here like you're here, enjoying the show, you know. But you know, you got to get out. And I tell, you know, my whole thing is, I tell people like, yeah, I've been in the system, but I'm out here trying to get out to show you guys that there's more to it. You know, like you said, the scars, and you know, you don't have to come out a certain way and brag about, yeah, I got shanked 4 times doing this, to make it seem like you got to like, oh yeah, see, that's a real prison experience. You was a prisoner, you nigga, you was a convict, you was in there doing all kind of, nah, nigga, I was in the law library studying, helping people, reading for 8 years, you know, doing things. That was my experience. So it's like, it's life is what experience you make out of it, man. And a lot of these youngsters, they don't get it, man. They thinking like going through this is gonna make them somebody, man. Right.
And if you get to the bottom of it, people who brag about the hood and living like, you know, deep down they don't want that situation. They just bragging because that's the situation they're in. No one wants to live in a neighborhood where they say, man, when am I gonna get shot? When am I gonna get robbed? That's not a comfortable lifestyle. And just because they brag about it, they just brag about it. I think they brag about it as a way of acceptance. Because to be honest with you, know what rap music is? It's a soundtrack for fatherless black boys. There's no daddy in the house, so they get themselves out. They rapping about their life and their situation. That's their therapy. But at the end of the day, that's not good therapy, man. I mean, I grew up I'm DJ. I got 1200s at home, the original. I'm
old school,
real vinyl DJ. Real, not that fake stuff. And I'm telling you, I didn't grow up on it, but I woke up, I knew what it was. I just keep it as music as it is, you know. But that stuff is like, that's all that killing and this and that, that's to validate their manhood. And that's not what makes a man.
Yeah.
It don't make you a man about, you know, how many women you can sleep with, how much money you make, how much jewelry you got. And that's what they teaching us. And they put that out there and glorify that. And that's not even close to what a man is. But that's the average person thinks. And I'm trying to like, look, that's not what it is, man. You're being lied to and it's gonna cost you.
Yeah.
And so, but how do you even, I don't know how you get to so many people, because we don't, like you said, we don't control the media. We don't control, you know.
Well, you're competing against somebody who just talked about he had some shooters roll down on somebody and this and that, and he's in a Rolls Royce. So, you know, this guy in the Rolls Royce, and he's saying that he's a gangster, or he just got through moving, you know, 2 pounds of pills with fentanyl in them. So you're thinking, well, fuck, if he's doing it, then man, maybe, you know, if I'm doing that same thing, maybe I'll be one of these dudes too. And it's like it's a bamboozle.
Yeah.
You know, because you're buying into a falsehood that's gonna really get you up underneath the prisons. And that's literally a prison commercial.
Right, and they don't, and that's the part they don't show you. Like if you're trying to live that life, you have to be flawless, and that's not gonna happen.
You can't make no mistakes.
You can't make. They got plenty of times to get you. You know, you got to live flawless. And who's gonna do that? You know, but you know what? The fact that people believe that is crazy. They really believe, like, oh, you really think you're gonna do this forever? And most likely, when you get murked, it's gonna be somebody that you kicked it with.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be. It's gonna be the dude
right.
you
somebody
smoke
you know.
weed with. Yes.
You're right. And you know, they don't tell you.
And how do you don't know that? Like, I don't even live that lifestyle, and I see it all the time. Just on the outside looking in, I'm like, dude, this is, you know, when something do happen to you, it's gonna be somebody you roll out with. It's gonna be somebody you done some stuff with or hung out with for years.
Somebody you trusted.
So,
man, I'm telling you guys, kicking the reel here with Justin, man. The game is dirty. Big Herc 916, man, fresh out. Trying to let you guys up.
Stop walking around with a crusty butt, smelly ball sack, and a funky hoo-ha. Big Herc said, wash that ass. Pick you up a t-shirt at freshoutseries.com.